Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events. And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on television Nigerian.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Abuja. I hope you're doing fine this very Monday morning. My name is Mercy Joe.
And my name is Elvis Oga. I'd like to say a very beautiful good morning to you and many thanks for joining us on today's edition of your one-stop breakfast show, Daybreak Africa on television Nigeria. Good morning, Mercy Joe.
Good morning, Elvis Oga.
How was your weekend?
Very splendid.
I can tell. You're actually looking so radiant.
I try my best.
Tell me thank you.
Thank you. Thank this verses and say, Messi, you are proud. You're proud. This verse comes us later. All right. Yeah. Now, I was looking about what happened over the weekend.
A whole lot actually happened.
A whole lot of things happened, but we'll start. In a press release by Comrade God knows Sotonye, its national coordinator, said the revelations at the public hearing have more than vindicated its position that all is not well at the commission. That's referring to the NDDC.
Nigeria Delta Development Commission.
Yeah. According to its evidence from the public hearing, have shown that the NDDC has been run like a private estate under a voodoo oath of secrecy. It said the former acting MD of the NDDC confirmed how the commission ran. As she revealed, nobody makes payment in NDDC without Godswill Apabio's consent. She also added that he told her that if she doesn't do as he wants, the same pen he used in signing her letter is the same pen he would use in removing her from the commission. That and more evidence came out at the public hearing for the Senate investigating.
See, I've been following the story of NDDC for a while. Yeah. Ever since news broke out about suspicion of some on like, how do I even put it? Okay, some corrupt practices in the office. Let's not paint the words or minds our words here. I tend to look at it from different angles and looking at the kind of seasons we've actually found ourselves in Nigeria, where we've been having series of allegations and corruption cases from hush puppy to other government top officials, and then down to NDDC. Again. There's this particular one that came out last week that actually got my attention when a whole sum of about 40 million or 100 million was said to be mismanaged by officials from that commission. And when they were asked, they said they gave themselves as palliative for the COVID-19. And I was wondering, even the president does not have the powers to spend money without approval from the legislative arm of the government. And you begin to wonder, where did they borrow that character from?
Oh, the question is, so that kind of amount of money is actually in the country and the country still needs to borrow money?
See, that commission is one commission that actually has a whole lot of money. You know, the issue with Niger Delta Development, where they've been complaining about the oil that actually form large part of our income comes from there, and their land is not good for them to do any other activities, like farming is totally grounded there because of oil spillage and everything. So the government saw that it was necessary for that commission to be formed, and it was formed, and it's been running affairs of developing that region for a while. And I think it got to a point where people from that region were crying for marginalization. And somebody raised the issue of that commission, that if you people are saying you people have been marginalized, and this commission has not been run by a president who sits, so who is marginalizing who? Is it the people in charge of the commission or the president of the country?
Yes.
If when we talk about development in that region.
And even the Niger Delta, they're coming out to say now that they're not even surprised with all these allegations being mounted on the NDDC boss, Godswill Akpabio. The way they're talking as if they expected it to come out this way. And then threats, this evidence, different people, different persons are coming out to say this is what he said at this particular time. Like the lady that I was reading out her evidence, she was in the car with him, and he's telling her that the same pen I used to sign you your appointment is the same pen I used to sign you out of this commission. And I'm asking myself, if you don't do his own bidding. So it's looking like people go into organizations with the notion, it's like an oath. You know that it's according to what the boss is saying, or if not, you're out of this place. And I was looking at expenditures that they've made over the past 8 months. I mean, 1.2 billion for publicity, 1.3 billion for community relations, 475 million for sanitizers and face masks for police. And we are asking, these are police on the street, please. How many times do you see them?
That's one question. The other one is, this commission is actually spending this much. How much has the federal government herself spent regarding providing the provision of these basic things for the prevention of COVID-19 to our security operatives? But
you understand?
I actually came across a statement from the same Godswill Akpabio that was talking about people trying to raise vendetta against him, that he was actually applauding President Muhammad Buhari for the fact that under his regime, under his watch, is the first time that the NDDC is not been run like, or is not used to settle family rift or family issues. And like, we just need everybody to come and clear the air, and then this is where the law too needs to take its course. And then when you were asking of people going into the office with wrong notion, I think this is where leadership comes in. When you are being assigned to a certain position, you don't go there with the aim of, okay, you are going to enrich yourself or go there as people's boss. What leadership means is like you are a public servant. So when you go there, you serve the interests of the people for their own good, not some group of selfish interests, but the general interest
for your
of
own family's purpose.
It doesn't work that way.
Oh, anyway, in conclusion, the Niger Delta is calling on President Muhammad Buhari to look into the case
and
very much and put an end to corruption. That's it, final. Nigeria recorded 571 new cases yesterday of the coronavirus, bringing to a total of 32,558 cases of coronavirus in the country. Recoveries 13,447 recoveries. That's always a win-win and a good and a hallelujah anytime I see the recoveries in the country. So sadly, 740 deaths. You're saying 16 deaths were
just yesterday. For some days now, we've been doing above 10 deaths per day, and it's really, really worrisome.
That's what I think, because the last time I heard it was 500 and something, and now I'm seeing 740. I'm like, why?
We're heading towards 1,000, and like every time we talk about coronavirus and these figures, the only thing that comes to my mind is how we can actually get people into the realization that COVID-19 is real, and then to break the chain of COVID-19 is our sole responsibility as individuals, as citizens of the country. So we need to do our bits and pieces to make sure that we stop the virus from moving from one person to another. I think the WHO and some agency put out statistics a couple of weeks back that we are in for community transmission, and that's where the problem lies. And apart from the normal community transmission that we're looking at, okay, people have been getting it from one person to another. Scientists have come out to say community transmission exposed us to another strand of COVID-19. So because the gene of this virus could actually mutate, and then come with another strand. So that, and if you're not careful, by the time they might be able to find a cure or vaccine for this particular strand, the other new strand that could actually be produced as a cause of this community transmission will now have to go extra length to find another cure for it again. So we really need to try our possible best to see that we break the chain of COVID-19.
Yeah, we really need to, because I see that there are some reasons why people get this virus. One, because the person is my family member, and I do need to put on my face mask. He does not have it, she doesn't have it. Because I'm at work with my colleague, I feel I don't need to put on my face mask. I feel like everything is fine. It's my colleague. I mean, we all came from home and we're here, nothing is going to happen. Or she's my friend, or what, no need. Even if I'm going to see the person, no need to put on my face mask. I can remove it and talk to the person.
And very importantly, the PTF chairman was talking about the level of recklessness exhibited by some religious homes the other day.
True.
So some people will tell you, I have this immunity from the Almighty Creator. He cannot come close to me and all. And even they will tell you that before someone help you, you need to help yourself.
Yes.
So we need to look at all of those things.
We're not denying that fact. Yes, it's true from the Almighty Creator. But then you still prevent yourself from getting it here. Heaven helps those who help themselves.
And don't forget that we've actually been complaining of how people took the issue of COVID-19 seriously from the beginning, but after a while, everybody seems to have thrown caution to the wind, and it's not really good. Because
events are happening now. If you did not know.
Apart from the events happening, you see people that tend to wash their hands regularly before. They have forgotten about all of those ones.
They now put their hand on their face.
People enter public transport without no attention or that consciousness of okay, there's a risk in town and several other things. I was listening to somebody the other day, and he was sounding so logical, where he said, in as much as you might want to do whatever, just for you to, maybe as you're going, if you're not driving on yourself, try to put on something that is actually long enough to protect that direct skin-to-skin contact with any other person, and then try to know the kind of vehicle you bought. Don't allow anybody jam pack you like crayfish. That era has passed, and several
like sardine.
And then when you get back home, try to wash your hand. Even though somebody, like we say, even though for people that want to say, okay, there's no COVID-19, so because there's no COVID-19, we should not observe good hygiene again.
No, I mean, good hygiene is supposed to be like our daily motion each and every other day. Anyway, when I say Susan Achin, you know that it's about that time to get the AM news. So let's go to the news desk to get news from Susan Achin.
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health and WHO.
broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. Nigeria on Sunday reported 571 new cases of COVID-19 with 343 more recoveries. This is according to the latest figures released on Sunday night in a tweet by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC). The NCDC noted that the new cases of COVID-19 were reported in 19 states in the country as well as the Federal Capital Territory. The new figures now take the country's infection from the virus to 32,558, with the number of discharged persons now 13,447. However, 740 deaths have thus far been reported from the pandemic, according to the NCDC. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAF) has filed a lawsuit asking the Federal High Court, Abuja, to direct and compel 36 state governors to use public funds budgeted for security votes and life pensions for former governors to fund healthcare facilities and to address the impact of COVID-19 on millions of Nigerians, as well as publish details of spending on COVID-19 in their respective states. In the suit filed last Friday, SERAF is seeking an order for leave to apply for judicial review and an order for mandamus to direct and compel the 36 state governors to disclose how much they have individually collected from the federal government as COVID-19 support from private donations and other sources, as well as details of spending of any such funds and donations. Now moving on to Crime Watch, police operatives have rescued an American citizen who was confined in a hotel in Lagos State for more than 1 year. In a series of tweets on Sunday, the Nigeria police said the victim, who hails from Washington, D.C. and is a retired civil servant in the U.S., was held at the hotel against her wish. She was said to have arrived in Nigeria on February 13, 2019 on a visit to one Chukwuebuka Obiaku, a 34-year-old native of Ikeduru local government area of Imo State, whom she met on Facebook. The police, however, said the American was rescued by operatives attached to the Intelligence Response Team IRT Ogun State Annex following the information received from a patriotic Nigerian in the Miran area of Lagos State. Now, the federal government has officially handed over the National Arts Theatre to the Central Bank of Nigeria's Bankers Committee with a robust plan to rehabilitate the nation's asset. In his remarks at the handing over ceremony held on Sunday in Igamu, Lagos, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, is hopeful that the restoration of the edifice and the adjoining land will create more jobs, as against speculations that it will lead to job loss. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, on his part, gave an assurance that the National Arts Theatre would go through a transformation into a world-class facility. Ahead of the rehabilitation, the federal government and Lagos State government said the new plan was to turn the dead asset to an IT, fashion and entertainment gold mine. Now, still in entertainment, Nollywood star Rita Dominic recently clocked 45 on July 12. The actress took to her Instagram page to mark the big day. Sharing a video of some gold-colored balloons, she thanked God for her life and 22 years in the industry. Well, congratulations to the beautiful Ridi, as she is fondly called. Lastly, and on sports, President Muhammadu Buhari has described Kamaru Usman's Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC successful welter title defense as a sign that good things and great people can still come out from Nigeria. Usman had on Sunday defeated George Masvidal in Abu Dhabi to retain the Ultimate Fighting Championship welterweight world title, scoring a unanimous points decision 50-45, 50-45 and 49-49 on the three judges' cards. While congratulating him for the win, which he described as emphatic, Buhari, in a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, hailed the 35-year-old for making Nigerians proud. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin. We now go across Africa for some more news. Stay with us.
Welcome to News Across Africa on Daybreak Africa. Ethiopia will proceed with filling of its gigantic dam on the Blue Nile despite inconclusive talks with impacted neighbors Sudan and Egypt. Addressing lawmakers on Tuesday, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the recent domestic unrest would not derail government's plan to fill the dam. If Ethiopia doesn't fill the dam, it means Ethiopia has agreed to demolish the dam, he said to the lawmakers. Touching on recent unrest in the country following the death of a prominent musician, he reiterated that it was part of a plot to derail the country's democratization project. Ethiopia becomes like Syria. If Ethiopia becomes like Libya, everybody loses, he commented. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, said to be Africa's largest hydroelectric project, has been a source of tension in the Nile Basin ever since Ethiopia broke ground on it nearly a decade ago. Ethiopia says the project is essential for its development. Addis Ababa has been vocal about its plans to start filling the reservoir this month. According to Egypt, the construction of the dam endangers the lives of 150 million Egyptians and Sudanese. The Nile is a lifeline supplying both water and electricity to the 10 countries it passes through. Egypt reopened its famed Giza pyramids to the public after 3 months closure. The reopening marked the restart of a vital tourism industry battered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Dozens of excited tourists snapped selfies as they wandered around Egypt's most iconic ancient sites. The pyramids were the country's first tourist attraction to reopen, along with the Egyptian Museum next to Cairo's Tahrir Square, ground zero of the 2011 revolution. Egypt decided in mid-June to reopen its airspace as well as some of its tourist sites. This in order to revive tourism, a sector that suffered heavily financial losses during a 3-month closure due to COVID-19 disease. Authorities are hoping holiday makers will brave flying and head to Egypt after international flight resumes on Tuesday under loosening travel restrictions. Nearly 15 million Africans could be pushed into extreme poverty owing to the coronavirus pandemic. According to the African Development Bank, West and Central Africa stand to be the most hit by the economic slump. Nigeria, the continent's most populous country, will see the greatest rise in poverty. In the bank's latest economic outlook, roughly a third of the continent was already expected to live below the international poverty line of $1.90 per day in 2020. Health crisis and ensuing lockdowns have destroyed jobs, crippled incomes, and devastated economies continent-wide. With this in mind, the AFDB expects Africa to suffer a major recession, with GDP forecast to contract between 1.7% to 3.4% this year. Furthermore, the institution says that between 24.6 and 30 million jobs will be lost this year due to the virus crisis. Nevertheless, the bank noted that Africa's economic growth could rebound in 2021, provided that government managed the COVID-19 infection rate well. The Kenya police earlier this week fired tear gas and detained protesters demanding an end to police brutality. About 100 people took part in demonstrations across the capital, Nairobi. Many Kenyans have been angered by a fresh wave of alleged police abuses while enforcing coronavirus restrictions. Rights group Amnesty International said Kenya police had killed at least 100 people in 2020, with 21 related to COVID-19 infractions such as curfew enforcement or mask violations. At least 6 people were killed in the first 10 days alone, according to Human Rights Watch. President Kenyatta had cause to apologize for police excesses in one of his coronavirus addresses. The Human Rights Watch has denounced recent extrajudicial execution of 180 people in Jibo, northern Burkina Faso. In a Wednesday report based on testimonies from local residents, the human rights organization said mass graves containing at least 180 bodies have been discovered in recent months, and available evidence suggests the involvement of government security forces in mass extrajudicial executions. According to residents of Jibo, the dead, all of them men, were left in groups of 3 and 20 along main roads, under bridges, and in fields of wastelands. The bodies were buried in mass graves in March and April by local residents with the approval of the military and local authorities, the Human Rights Watch explained. According to testimonies, the majority of victims were men belonging to Fulani ethnic group, mainly recruited by the jihadist groups that have been bleeding Burkina Faso for the past 5 years. In response to the allegations, the government has committed to open an investigation, saying the killings may have been carried out by armed groups using army uniforms and logistics stolen during attacks, according to the Human Rights Watch. Jibo is located in one of the regions most affected by jihadist attacks. Over the past 3 years, Burkina law enforcement officials have been repeatedly accused of serious abuses and extrajudicial killings of civilians in their fight against jihadist groups. That is the much we have for you on News Across Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Alright, welcome back. In case you're just joining us now, this is Daybreak Africa here on television Nigerian. And we have a question of the day.
Exactly.
Which is?
It's actually in your week, and we want you to start your week in a very proper footing. The question of the day is, what group of animals is known as the flamboyants? You heard that. What group of animals is known as the flamboyants?
So kindly drop your answers for us on the comment section there, and we'll reveal the winners to our question tomorrow on the program.
Exactly.
So now it's time for the dailies.
And we'll take you straight to the front pages of some of the national dailies to see headlines we have from those national dailies. Let's begin with the Punch newspaper, and we take it from the top to the bottom.
The Punch newspaper.
Yes, you already know. Okay, the headline we have above the nameplate reads, FG China finalizing negotiations on 43.24 billion naira Ibadan port. That story can be found on the page 30 of the Punch newspaper. Below that, FG orders power project contractors back to site. You can also check that out on the page 30. And then on page 22, you have the story, I didn't campaign for Buhari while with Jonathan. That is coming from Dasuki. Petrol subsidy gulped 101.6 billion naira in 3 months, says NNPC. And that story can be found, or details of that story can be found on the page 33. The banner headline from the Punch newspaper for today reads, seized properties cornered by top EFCC officials, Margot's friends. That is coming from Panel. Says suspended commission boss failed to account for 332 recovered houses. All allegations are lies, concocted to tarnish Margot's image, says counsel. And now let's take a look at some few more headlines still from the Punch newspaper below the picture story. Lagos doctors begin strike over wage disparity. Others. That story is on the page 6 of the Punch newspaper. And fraudster detains American lady in Lagos hotel, defrauds her of 18.5 million naira. That story can be found on the page 4 and page 5 of the Punch. And then lastly, federal government, that's FG, comments LPs as UK denies airline landing permit. You can check that out on the page 12 of the Punch newspaper. And that's all for the Punch newspaper for this morning.
All right, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. The big headline here, 1,773 NDDC contractors allegedly abscond with mobilization fees. 1,773 abscond with the mobilization fees. Below that, Commission got 219 queries from Auditor General's office. Reps quiz Commission over 70.495 billion naira awarded contracts. Below that, military airstrikes kill scores of bandits in Zamfara forest. That's on page 4. APC chieftain files suit to challenge dissolution of NWC. That's on page 23. Still below that, Northern Speakers Forum wants quick implementation of state legislative autonomy. That's on page 23. Beside that, vessels auction, my approval legal. That's coming from Malami. How Magu turned EFCC to glorified police station. That's coming from reports. Magu didn't launder loot through me. That's coming from Falano. You can get hold of that on page 3 and 27 of the Tribune newspaper. Above the nameplate, why 2020 budget was increased despite low revenues. That's from the presidency, so you might want to get a hold of that story to understand why. That's on page 3. How security forces killed Ebila, Ibadan's 1 million boys gang leader. That's on page 4. And I'll take this last story. Lagos doctors begin 3 days warning strike today. Today being Monday. That's on page 8. You can get a hold of those stories and others in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning.
All right, and a quick look at This Day newspaper reviews the following headlines. The banner headline we have from This Day reads, revealed, Magu failed to submit EFCC or detailed account for 4 years. Annual report not submitted to National Assembly in 4 years contrary to law. Ribadu, Farida, Lamrode in full compliance. SAN seeks bail for suspended anti-corruption chief. And then beside the picture story, APC governors, party leaders meet over Edo election tomorrow. Another chieftain challenges caretaker's legitimacy in court. Ondo Assembly returns to drawing board over deputy governor's removal. And just above the nameplate, National Assembly gets revised PIB in 2 weeks, says Silva. That story can be found on page 8 of This Day newspaper. And above that particular headline, CBN banks commit 25 billion naira to National Theatre, others upgrade. You can pick a copy of This Day newspaper to check out details of the stories we just brought your way and even more.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. DSS police go after NFRU office burglars. CCTV captures 6 persons. CSP fingered as mastermind. Suspended EFCC boss queried over 332 recovered property. Panel invites Commission's ex-director of finance. Demands more files of politically exposed persons. That's on page 6. Below the picture nameplate, police rescue American lady held hostage in Lagos hotel for 16 months by Facebook lover. Arrest 3 others for 419 romance scam. That's on page 5. Beside that, IPOB leader faults appointment of EFCC chairman from North. That's on page 6. Reps probe NDDC over 70.495 billion naira payments to contractors. That's on page 8. Anambra 2021 opinion poll favors competence over zoning. That's on page 26. And I'll take this last headline here for the Daily Sun. 2023 Igbo agitation for presidency justified. That's coming from Nnamani. That's all for the Daily Sun newspaper.
Okay, up next for review is the Daily Times newspaper with some interesting headlines cutting across different spheres of life, ranging from business, economy, and even we have some stories concerning governance. From the business angle, Fairfax Africa, Helios Holdings partner to become leading continental asset manager. You can actually check out that story on the page 17 of the Daily Times. And then from the economic angle, private sector to get FG's 65 billion naira stimulus package. And then Magu failed to account for 332 recovered property worth billions. The banner headline we have from this particular publication talking about the Daily Times reads, Nigerians FCTA differ on alleged land racketeering in Abuja. That story is on the page 2 of the Daily Times. And then the editorial story is talking about NDDC with the caption, time to clear NDDC mess. Pick a copy of the Daily Times to get the details of the stories and even more.
All right, taking a look at the Nation newspaper this morning. The big headline here, why US, UK, others are monitoring Magu's probe. Concern about allegations, probe process, fair hearing, anti-graft campaign. 550 billion naira recovered fund in TSA, says EFCC. Malami defends crude oil sales. Below that, more dust in Ondo over Deputy Governor Ajayi. Home APC local government chapter ask him to quit. APC hears appeal. House rejects call for Speaker's exit. That's on page 12 of the Nation newspaper. Above that, leader of 1 million boys gang shot dead in Ibadan. That's on page 8 as well. Bankers 25 billion naira revival pill for national theatre. 10,000 jobs coming. That's a good news there. Page 20. I'll take this last story here. Why Eze Iyamu will be elected governor by Obadan. Obaseki deserves re-election, says HOS. Governor will face defeat on September 19th. That and more, it's on page 7, and you can get the Nation newspaper this morning to get a hold of all those stories.
All right, and now let's take a look at the Business Day newspaper with the banner headline, CBN taps cash reserve ratio debit as backdoor of piling OMO cost. Beside the picture story, coronavirus is the killer, PPE shortage is the catalyst. Very accurate comparison there, even though it's quite sad that we're talking about
using such a pandemic as a comparison.
All right, these are the few headlines we actually have from the Business Day newspaper. You can pick a copy of that National Daily to get details of those stories we just brought your way, and even more stories from that publication.
All right, finally, the Guardian newspaper this morning. The headline here, federal government, states borrow more, crowd out private sector. Real sector faces tougher times. Economists see more value in local bonds. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Below that, Nigerians fight for economic balance as recession beckons. That's on page 3. Resign now, Ondo Deputy Governor tells Assembly Speaker. A lot of resigning now has been coming from Ondo State. That's on page 7. I'll take this last headline here. Blame Tinubu, Akande, fire me if Southwest loses 2023 presidency. That's on page 6. So you can get a hold of that story and more on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
A whole lot of people actually clamoring for the presidency to be zoned to their regions. For 2023, we have the Southeast agitating for that, and now Southwest is coming to say, name some people that should be blamed if they lose out on that bid.
You know, last week we had this vox pop on if zoning should actually be, what do you think about zoning? And some people were of the opinion that whoever is best for the position should just be there, irrespective of zoning or no zoning.
Most times, if you look at the things owing to our diverse ethnic groups and culture and several other things, in order to strike the balance, I think that's where the people actually came up with the idea of zoning. But like so many people will tell you, it's an internal arrangement, it's not backed by the constitution, so whoever is most qualified for the job should get the job. But most times people will tell you that for just fairness and equity, we really need to look for a way of distributing this position. And I think it goes beyond that, because that's when people think, okay, it's our turn, let's use it to our advantage. Then the next people feel it's our turn, let's use it to our advantage. If it's bringing healthy competition, there will be no issue with that. But when you go and you just want to make sure you turn it to a family venture, and whether the person from the region is qualified or not, you put them. But if you are looking at, okay, this person was president from this region, he developed this region, when the next man comes, he might want to outdo that and develop his region. When it goes to another region, before you know it, we have the entire country being developed. But do we see that? We don't.
No. All right, it's time to go to the health desk and see what they have for us this morning.
To another episode of Healthy Living. Today's topic is stress management. Stress management. If you are living with high level of stress, you are putting your entire well-being at risk. Stress wreaks havoc on your emotional equilibrium as well as your physical health. It narrows your ability to think clearly, function effectively, and enjoy life. Effective stress management, on the other hand, helps you break the whole stress has on your life, so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. The following stress management tips can help you do that. 1. Identify the source of stress in your life. Do you define stress as integral part of your work or home life, or as a part of your personality? Do you blame your stress on other people or outside events, or view it as entirely normal and unexceptional? Until you accept responsibilities for the role you play in creating or managing it, your stress level will remain outside your control. Secondly, practice the 4 A's of stress management, which are avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. Avoid unnecessary stress. Learn how to say no. Know your limits and stick to them, whether in your personal or professional life. Taking no more than you can handle is a software recipe for stress. Distinguish between the shoulds and the musts, and when possible, say no to taking on too much. Avoid people who stress you out. Analyze your schedules, responsibilities, and daily tasks. Alter the situation. If you can't avoid a stressful situation, try to alter it. Often, this involves changing the way you communicate and operate in your daily life. Express your feelings instead of bottling them up. Create a balanced schedule. All work and no play is a recipe for burnout. Try to find a balance between work, family, life, social activities, and solitary pursuits, daily responsibilities, and downtime. Adapt to the stressor. If you can't change the stressor, change yourself. You can adapt to stressful situations and regain your sense of control by changing your exceptions and attitude. Adjust your standard. Perfectionism is a major source of affordable stress. Stop setting yourself up for failure by demanding perfection. Set responsible standards for yourself and others, and learn to be okay with good enough. Practice gratitude. When stress is getting you down, take a moment to reflect on all the things you appreciate in your life, including your possible qualities and gifts. This simple strategy can help you keep things in perspective. Accept the things you can't change. Some sources of stress are unavoidable. You can't prevent or change stressors, such as death of loved ones, a serious illness, or a national recession. In such cases, the best way to cope with stress is to accept things the way they are. Acceptance may be difficult, but in the long run, it's easier than ruling against a situation you can change. Third tip, get moving when you are stressed. The last thing you possibly feel like doing is getting up and exercise, but physical activities is a huge stress reliever, and you don't have to be an athlete or spend hours in the gym to exercise the benefits. Exercise releases endorphins that make you feel good, and it can also serve as a valuable distraction from your daily worries. Put on some music and dance around. Fourth tip, connect to others. There is nothing more calming than spending quality time with another human being who makes you feel safe and understood. In fact, face-to-face interaction triggers the cascade of hormones that counteract the body's defensive fight or flight response. It's nature's natural stress reliever. As an added bonus, it also helps stave off depression and anxiety. So make it a point to connect regularly and in person with family and friends. Fifth tip, make time for fun and relaxation. Beyond a take-charge approach and a positive attitude, you can reduce stress in your life by carving out me time. Don't get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that you forget to take care of your own needs. Nourishing yourself is necessity, not a luxury. If you regularly make time for fun and relaxation, you'll be in a better place to handle life's stressor. Sixth tip, manage time better. Poor time management can cause a lot of stress. It's hard to stay calm and focused. The good news there is there are things you can do to achieve a healthier work life. Don't overcommit yourself. Avoid scheduling things back to back or trying to fight too much into one day. All too often, we underestimate how long things will take. Seventh tip, maintain balance with a healthy lifestyle. In addition to regular exercise, there are other healthy lifestyle choices that can increase your resistance to stress. Eat a healthy diet. Well-nourished bodies are better prepared to cope with stress, so be mindful of what you eat. Start your day with a great breakfast and keep your energy up and your mind clear with balance. Nutritious meals throughout the day. Avoid alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. Get enough sleep. Adequate sleep fuels your mind as well as your body. Feeling tired will increase your stress because it may cause you to think irrationally. 8. Learn to relieve stress in the moment. The fastest way to reduce stress is by taking the deep breath and using your senses. What you see, hear, taste, and touch, or through a subtle movement, by viewing a favorite photo or movie, listening to your favorite piece of music. Remember, not all illness are caused by diseases, and not all illness need medicine. All you need to do is to have a happy soul, a happy mind, and always laugh and be happy. Thank you for watching today's episode.
Stress management there and from our healthy desk.
What a big therapy.
I'm telling you, enough sleep. I can testify to that. Enough sleep.
That's the only one that stuck to your head.
Yes.
I remember when you were shouting, you can testify to that.
Yes, I can testify to that.
You know, a whole lot of things people think you can actually get through the houses of life by putting or doing too much. But you might just need some little tips like this to unlock that pause or solve that pause you've been looking forward to. They say, all work and no play
makes Jack a dull boy.
So create time to just find the balance between your work and your leisure time, and then don't try to fit in too much into a particular day.
True. Anyway, our question for the day still remains: what group of animals is known as the flamboyants? That's our question for today. So kindly drop your answers for us on the comment section there. Anyway, it's time for us to go.
So quick.
But we're leaving you with a package on Tanzanians and the best sites and the beautiful sites of Tanzania. That's one of those days when you go to visit Tanzania, the places you can possibly try to visit when you go there. Well, my name is Mercy Joe.
And my name is Elvis Oka. I'd like to say a very big thank you for being part of the program today. Join us tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have yourself a lovely day.
Officially the United Republic of Tanzania, it is a country in East Africa within the African Great Lakes region. It borders Uganda to the north, Kenya to the northeast, Comoro Islands and the Indian Ocean to the east, Mozambique and Malawi to the south, Zambia to the southwest, and Rwanda, Burundi, and Democratic Republic of the Congo to the west. Over 100 different languages are spoken in Tanzania, making it the most linguistically diverse country in East Africa. The country does not have a de jure official language, although the national language is Swahili. This language is used parliamentarily in debates, in the lower courts, and as a medium of instruction in primary schools. English is used in foreign trade, diplomacy, in higher courts, and as a medium of instruction in secondary and higher education. Although the Tanzanian government is planning to discontinue English as a language of instruction altogether. Approximately 10% of Tanzanians speak Swahili as a first language, and up to 90% speak it as a second language. Travel and tourism has become an impactful part of the Tanzanian economy, and it contributed 17.5% of Tanzania's gross domestic product of $61.032 billion and employed 11.0% of the country's labor force, creating about 1.3 million jobs. Overall receipts rose from $1.74 billion in 2004 to $4.48 billion in 2013, and receipts from international tourists rose from $1.255 billion in 2010 to $2 billion in 2016. In the same year, about 1.3 million tourists arrived at Tanzania's borders, compared to 590,000 in 2005. Number 10. Selous Game Reserve. Selous is the largest game reserve in Africa, established in 1922, and covers 5% of Tanzania's total area. The southern area is a forbidden zone that is undeveloped, heavily forested, and contains a series of steep cliffs. Travelers are limited to the area north of the Rufiji River. This area of Selous Game Reserve has a large open grassland, woodland, rivers, hills and plains. The best time to visit is July through October. The Rufiji River bisects the Selous Game Reserve and has the largest catchment area of any river in East Africa. The river is an important feature of the reserve, providing the opportunity to watch the diverse water-based wildlife. A broad range of wildlife can be found, including elephants, hippos and rhinos, as well as buffaloes, antelopes, giraffes, warthog, wild beasts, lions, leopards and cheetahs. The diversity of bird life in the Selous includes over 350 recorded species. Number 9. Ngorongoro Conservation Area. Located between the Serengeti and Lake Manyara, the Ngorongoro Conservation Area is home to the famous volcanic Ngorongoro crater and is one of Tanzania's most popular wildlife viewing areas. This huge volcanic crater has a permanent supply of water, which draws thousands of animals who stay in this area rather than migrating. Visitors come here primarily for viewing large animals and bird watching. Thousands of animals can be seen on the crater floor, including lions, elephants, rhinos, Thompson's gazelles and buffaloes, but wild beasts and zebras account for over half of the animals that call the Ngorongoro crater home. Bird watching is superb, especially around Lake Migadi, which attracts flocks of flamingos to the shallows. Hippos are content to submerge themselves during the day and then graze in the nearby grass in the evening. The Ngorongoro crater is the largest intact ancient caldera in the world, nearly 3 million years old. The Ngorongoro volcano was one of the world's tallest mountains before it exploded and collapsed. Number 8. Serengeti National Park. Serengeti National Park is a vast treeless plain with millions of animals living here or passing through in search of fresh grasslands. It is most famous for the annual wildebeest migration, but you can also see the Big Five here. And nearly 500 species of birds have been recorded on the Serengeti. As the second largest national park in Tanzania, the Serengeti attracts tens of thousands of tourists each year. The best months of wildlife viewing in Serengeti National Park are between December and June. The wet season is from March to May, with the coldest period from June to October. The annual migration of over 1.5 million wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles take place in May or early June. This migration is one of the most impressive natural events and a primary draw for many tourists. Number 7. Tarangire National Park. Tarangire is a popular day trip for those following a standard northern safari itinerary, but its baobab-dotted landscape and numerous dry riverbeds are worth much more time. During the dry season from August to October, Tarangire has one of the highest concentrations of wildlife in Tanzania. It is an excellent spot for those who love watching elephants, zebras, giraffes, impala and wildebeest. Tarangire is a good place to enjoy walking safaris and an excellent birding destination. Be prepared to swat tsetse flies here. At certain times of the year, they can get annoying. Accommodations in Tarangire are very affordable and include lodges, campsites and luxury tented camps. Number 6. Mafia Island. Further south lays the idyllic island of Mafia, a touch more sophisticated and exclusive than Zanzibar, but without the Mnemba price tag. This is an exciting coconut-covered island to visit. The beaches are superb, and its mangroves and marine park ensure that the marine life is beautiful and the underwater safari experience far superior to Zanzibar or Pemba. More out of the way and a little harder to reach, Mafia is a place for adventurous travelers and diving connoisseurs. The star underwater attraction is the docile and completely harmless whale sharks that frequent the island's waters between October and March each year. Number 5. Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an exotic island kingdom of former slave traders and fishermen which has reinvented itself as a tourism hotspot. It oozes culture and history in Stone Town, which is seemingly at odds with its idyllic geography of white sand beaches and coconut palms swaying lazily in the sea breeze. But it is precisely this diversity which makes Zanzibar such an attractive and varied island to explore, and above and below the water, as well as a dream destination for simply relaxing and recharging. For those with deep pockets and a healthy budget, nothing beats the exclusive satellite islands of Mnemba off the northeastern tip of Zanzibar. With one exclusive and beyond lodge, Mnemba is the very pinnacle of tropical island beach chic luxury. For the rest of us mere mortals, There is a dazzling array of around 800 hotels, beach resorts, guest houses and other accommodation options to choose between on the main island. It almost goes without saying, this is not a place you should come if you don't want to see other tourists at this destination, because this destination always has a full house. Number 4. Unguja. Looking for a picture-perfect place to visit in Tanzania? Then Unguja should be on top of your bucket list. Unguja has aquamarine waters made up of soft sands and immersive Swahili market. Once trodden by sultans and British imperialists, the capital of Stone Town here bursts with coral stone forts, Persian palaces and European front spaces. And then there are the beaches, from seaweed-spattered Kendwa to whiter than white Nungwi and its salted washed bungalows on the shore. This little isle in the Indian Ocean really did earn its place as the byword for tropical perfection. Number 3. Ruaha National Park. In 2008, Ruaha National Park became Tanzania's largest park. It is home to large herds of buffaloes and gazelles and has one of the largest concentrations of elephants in Tanzania. The Great Ruaha River is the main feature of Ruaha National Park, providing magnificent wildlife viewing on the banks. The river also provides much of the electricity to Tanzania through a hydroelectric dam at Kidatu. Ruaha National Park is the least accessible park in Tanzania, and as a result, the landscape remains relatively untouched. Birdwatchers can enjoy over 400 species of birds that are not found in northern Tanzania, and the river, spectacular gorges, and majestic trees are especially appealing to photographers. Number 2. Stone Town. Stone Town is the cultural heart of Zanzibar and little has changed in the last 200 years. The grand old Arabian homes lining the narrow streets and winding alleys give the city its own unique charm. The majority of homes in Stone Town were built in the 19th century when Zanzibar was one of the most important Swahili trading towns in the Indian Ocean. Visitors will notice the brass-studded, intricately carved wooden doors on many of the houses. As the world's oldest functioning Swahili city, many of the landmarks in Stone Town have been restored to their original glory. Some of the historic buildings are now museums and tourist attractions. The town also has a couple of interesting old churches of historical significance. A walk along Creek Road takes visitors to the original Stone Town area and the location of the Darajani Market, Bait El Amani City Hall, and the Anglican Cathedral. Some of the other key highlights include the Forodani Gardens, the old dispensary with its carved wooden balconies, the former home of the Sultans known as Beit El Zahel or the People's Palace, the Hammamni Persian baths built in 1888, and the oldest structure in Stone Town, the Old Fort. Number 1. Mount Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro is Africa's highest peak at 5,895 meters and Tanzania's most iconic image. Mount Kilimanjaro National Park, unlike other parks in northern Tanzania, is not visited for the wildlife but for the chances to stand in awe of this beautiful snow-capped mountain, and for many to climb to the summit. This mountain can be climbed at any time, although the best period is from late June to October during the dry season. Kilimanjaro, a World Heritage Site, was formed over 1 million years ago by volcanic movement along the Rift Valley. 3 volcanic cones, Shira, Kibo, and Mawenzi, came to be about 750,000 years ago. The highest point is Huru Peak on Kibo, which is one of the 7 summits of the world. The mountain rises from farmlands on the lower level to rainforest and alpine meadow, and then barren lunar landscapes at the peaks. The slopes of rainforest are home to buffaloes, leopards, monkeys, elephants, and elk.